Welcome to this Building Trust in Trying Times webinar from Better Business Bureau. So good to have you with us today, and definitely a topic that is on the top of minds of business owners throughout the United States, and that is the stimulus package, where things stand right now and what is going on. I can tell you right now, at this moment as we record this, it is 2 o'clock Mountain Time. And we believe the U.S. Senate is in session, as we received word this morning that the SBA has basically run out of money on the stimulus package for the Payment Protection Program and the Emergency Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. So keep this in mind if you're watching a recorded version of this webinar. A lot will change in the coming hours and days after this is recorded. We will give you this caveat. We really encourage you to go out and find the most up-to-date information post-webinar, and we've done some adjusting. We're going to make these webinars as interactive as possible. We want to start off with a quick poll just to see where you as a business owner are right now, and we have 3 specific questions we'd like to ask as I introduce our guest today. And so it refers to the stimulus package, and if you have applied, if you have received confirmation that you have applied, and if you have received payment. So as you answer those 3 quick questions, I'm going to introduce you to our guest today, who is Suzi Berget-White. And Suzi is an innovative business leader who serves as the Business Development Director at Prospera. Suzi's management, counseling, and teaching style is based on real-life applications, blending her business education with her personal experience as a business owner, fundraiser, human resource manager, public speaker, and trainer. She's counseled more than 600 female business owners throughout Montana and has been instrumental at creating content for trainings that offer clients transforming questions and tips that help achieve breakthroughs, add value, and get results. Suzi is a small business owner who has successfully launched and brought to market 3 businesses and effectively expanded and sold a construction business. Suzi, so good to have you with us today. As you look at the numbers that are there on the screen for the answers to our poll questions, any significant surprise there? We talked about this, that you're seeing this pretty much across the country.
Yeah, I am. I am seeing very consistent messaging here on what's happening across the country. So I was not surprised to see the polling results there. So thank you so much for sharing those with us.
All right. Anything I missed as far as setting the stage to realize that we're at a very tumultuous time right now as we record this webinar with all that's going on, the Senate meeting, trying to figure out how to extend and gain more funding for these programs?
Yeah, thank you. I would say my quote of the day has been the SBA has been trying to facilitate 14 years of loans in 14 days. So I have actually been impressed by the way that they've been able to handle the sheer quantity of loans that have come through the system. I understand these are disappointing times because the money, we don't know what's going to happen with the particular loan funds in the future now that they've closed, or at least temporarily closed today. So I am actually thrilled at how well the government has handled all this. This is a lot of loans, and it's a lot of pressure on the lending institutions of America and the small business owners in America to be able to get access to these funds. So to be honest, I'm thrilled. It's been a huge trying effort for everyone, and everyone has done their part. So I've been very proud of America.
I just want to repeat what you said on the off chance that somebody did not hear that. The SBA has processed 14 years worth of loans in 14 days. That is a monumental task in and of itself. So thanks for bringing perspective to that. With that, I'm going to turn the floor over to you and your presentation today.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me. Like I said, I'm Suzi Berget-White. I'm the Business Development Director at Prospera Business Network. We are located in beautiful Bozeman, Montana. I work with the local Better Business Bureau office quite often. They do a great job here, and I'm proud to be a part of that organization and connecting them with business owners and vice versa. Again, we've done 14 years worth of loans in 14 days. So today, like any day in the last 30 days, I've had to pivot. And I'm guessing you have too as business owners. And so what I want to say here just before we get started is that I know a lot of you guys have come here today to learn more about the different loan programs. And I'll be touching base upon that, but today I'm going to be talking more about Plan B. What happens if this money does not return, and what are the things that you can take control over? So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So before we get started, while I'm doing my intro, I'd love for you to grab a piece of paper and a pen if you don't have one. I'm going to have one slide in between some activities, and so I thought I would just kind of make sure that you guys have something standing by to be able to take some notes. All right, so on a typical day, the things that I typically do is help people with no-cost business counseling, business loans, business trainings, and business development grants. So I'm typically a one-stop shop. I'm from an economic development group in Southwest Montana. Your state and your counties have an economic development group that can be helping you out in these trying times. And so I want to just make you aware that there are organizations out there that are part of the SBA on the state level. They're there to help you as well, in addition to the Better Business Bureau. Now, again, a lot of you are here to learn more about these particular programs. Well, because there have been the temporary closure, I've decided to pivot my presentation today. And instead of focusing on the step-by-step details on applying for these particular loans, I'm going to be talking more about the things that we can control as business owners. But I did want to include this quick overview for you just to kind of make you aware of the two loan options that are out there. In a slide or two, I'm going to be sharing with you a link to a webinar that I did just yesterday that walks people through step-by-step both of the applications for the EIDL and the PPP in case those loans should become available. And in that webinar, I go through almost every question that I've seen kind of come across my desk, everything about independent contractors, everything about how to come up with your calculation, what if you're a seasonal business, all those things. So know that that's available. And after you've watched that webinar, if you still have questions, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. My email address will be on the last slide that you will see today. Now again, as Dale was mentioning, there were some significant updates as of 9 p.m. last night. And so at that point, everything in my world has shifted and everything with the lenders that I work with have shifted. And so to be clear, the SBA is unable to accept new applications at this time for the EIDL loan. And it's due to limited appropriations and funding. And so that portal is closed. And so if you peeked at it before, it is closed now. And again, on my webinar, if you want to look at what that portal looks like, you'll be able to see that. Now, if you've already submitted your application, know that they're being processed on a first come, first served basis. With those EIDL loans, I've yet to really see many business owners actually get funding in their actual bank accounts yet. On the PPP loans, I have seen money, obviously, because that's through a local lender. I have seen money transferred to people's accounts. And so I'm letting people know that, yes, if you already got in there and you already got a loan number and you've already submitted your application, you're at the first come, first serve basis and you are in the system. Again, here's a link to that webinar that I was talking about where it's a 1 hour webinar where I walk you through step by step. It's through YouTube, and I'm happy to help you after that if you have additional questions. Again, updates for the PPP. Again, they're not able to issue new loan approvals. Again, first come, first serve basis. And I did want to mention this, some of the more local banks that I've been working with in rural Montana and some of the more local community banks, they've actually been telling me that some of them were actually accepting some PPP applications if they were less than 10,000, just because those EIDL loans are much easier to handle and the terms are much longer. And so not all of them have said that. Some of the more corporate banks, the nationwide banks have said, no, we take everything. But some of the local banks, I have seen them kind of turn away some of those loans. So I would like to mention that because it is difficult sometimes those PPP loans to make sure that everything that you're going to be doing is forgiven. And so know that those EIDL loans, if they come available, are a really great option for almost any business. Again, connect with your banker. Some banks are still helping clients kind of prepare in case those loans become available. So it is important that you check in with them. And then if you do need immediate cash, which I'll be talking about that here in a few minutes, be sure to connect with your banker and your local economic development group or SBA group where they can maybe help you find some cash options instead of putting things on a credit card. As an advisor to many business owners, that is the one thing, especially in trying times, it's very tempting to put money on a credit card. This is not the time. This is the time to get proper financing in place for your organization to be able to withstand the next few years in a potential recession. And again, there is a link to my webinar. I'm going to move forward here. There are very few websites I'm trusting at this moment. I know that there's a lot of content out there and a lot of really great websites that are trying to disseminate the information, because some of these documents, like the CARES Act is a 900-page document, like these interim rules, they're anywhere from 19 to 50 pages. And so these are the things that I'm looking at as an advisor and giving information to my clients. And these are the websites that you should be trusting. The SBA.gov website has been very helpful. I'm going to be honest, the Treasury website is more helpful. If you're looking for specifics on how you would qualify with any of these particular loans, and again, if you have not applied, this is what I'm talking about. Go ahead and look here. There's some great content. If you are self-employed, this interim rule that was just announced on April 20, there's a typo there. I'm so sorry about that. It says April 23rd. That date has not come yet. April 13th. Sorry about that. And so there's a really great website on those calculations and how to actually calculate your item for the PPP. Now today, again, I'm focusing on what we have control over and what your plan B is. And so I'm going to give you 5 tips today that may be helpful in kind of helping your business move forward in these trying times and come out ahead of the game here. So number 1, this is my favorite one because I'm a big fan of Google. My first tip today is update your Google business page. This one has been very important, especially as we've seen some temporary closures in businesses, or maybe you have a business that is operating remotely, things like that. I screenshot the Prospera Business Network Google page for you to be able to see where there's actually a portion here on the coronavirus COVID-19 portion of your Google business page where you can actually click that and you can find out more details on how to make your clients more aware, anyone that's visiting your Google business page. And again, as an organization, we've posted, yes, we're open. Please contact us via email. Our team is working remotely. And then we've also included more information over here as well. So make sure that you spend 5 minutes on your Google business page. And I say this even in times where we're not having a crisis. I'm saying spend 5 minutes on your Google business page. There's a lot to be learned about the people that are visiting your websites, the demographic, and ways that you can be more helpful. And also SEO tips as well for making your business show up a little bit faster on those website searches. I'm also recommending that this is your time to be updating your other marketing outlets. People are forgetting about updating your website, like, hey, remind people that you're working remotely, letting people know that they can get a hold of you. And if text is an option, I'm recommending that businesses add a text option, just like, hey, contact us via text or email or phone. We're here to help. Just because we want to make sure that if we want to stay open during this time and not hibernate our business, that we're able to offer great customer service. And if you need help with any of these Google business page tips or anything like that, again, that's something we can help you with. But I just want to make sure people are doing that as a first tip. People need to find you. My second tip, and this is where the pen and paper come into play. I'm going to give you a few minutes here to kind of look at this, but remember those times where you were starting your business and you're putting together that SWOT diagram that you were kind of told that you had to include in your business plan? Well, I'm actually doing this right now with a lot of my clients because a lot of the times people are feeling down right now. They're not sure what to do. They're threatened by the economy right now. And so I'm really having people kind of focus on a SWOT analysis right now because it's something you can do in about 3 seconds, honestly, 3 minutes, 3 seconds, whatever. But I'm focusing on the strengths and the opportunities. Dale had mentioned to me prior to this webinar that he loves the innovation that's happening from this and that he's seeing some innovation. And so am I. I am seeing a lot of businesses pivot right now, and there are a lot of opportunities right now. And so what I'm asking all of you is that during this webinar or after this webinar, take that piece of paper, make those 4 squares, and just write down your strengths and your opportunities right now. Because as an organization, as Prospera Business Network, we are pivoting as an organization too. And we're trying to be quick on our toes and try to do it quickly, but we also want to be smart about it too. And so when you write it down, sometimes it's a little bit easier to kind of understand what those next steps are to success. So that's a quick little thing that you can do with yourself if you're self-employed or with your employees as like an activity on a Zoom call or something like that, just to kind of bring the team together and kind of be thinking about the next steps and way that your business can pivot. My next tip for you is checking in with your clients. Now, I'm talking to a ton of clients and they are, they're saying business is great, we're moving ahead. But I do think it is important, as offering great customer service to your clients, is checking in on all those clients, see how they're doing. I think that's really important, because sometimes it's just great to get in the shoes of your clients and understand where they're coming from. Some of them are not being affected by this. Sometimes businesses have been doing better, but then some of them aren't, and they may have some other things going on. Maybe they have the coronavirus. So I think it's important to check and just offer great customer service that way. I also think that while you're on the phone call with them, checking in about those future jobs, and I'm speaking mostly to people that are in the construction industry, catering industry, anybody that's kind of signing large contracts for the future. Obviously, you've signed these contracts, but it's important to kind of think about, can these people actually pay these bills? Let's say they didn't get access to any of these EIDL loans or PPP loans. Are they going to be able to pay you? And why that's important is that I'm going to be talking to you about this in my next tip, but it's important to understand what your future looks like for 2020 and really get a grip on the financials that you have and the things that you have control over. And by checking in with those clients, that's going to help you budget the revenue that's going to be coming in 2020 for you. So I think it's important to talk about that. I also think it's important, if you're in a type of industry that files liens or needs to adapt payment terms, this is the time to do that. I'm looking back to our construction business from the last recession, which was, the 2007 to 2009 period here in Montana. And that was the time where we, as a business, we shook a lot of hands. We did a lot of deals with people that we had worked with time and time again. And it was interesting. The people that filed for bankruptcy during that time were the people that we shook hands with and didn't have those formal contracts like that we usually had with new clients. You kind of let your guard down a little bit because you trust those people, you work with them, you've done lots of jobs with them. This is the time to think about updating those payment terms. So one thing I'm recommending is that, for instance, if you are working with other construction companies, they only pay you 30 days after a job. This is the time that you check in with them and say, maybe, as a subcontractor, this is a great time to say, at this point, we're going to need 50% payment up front or 50% payment at the time of the job. Because here's the deal. I don't want you to be the Bank of America by let's say, if those people cannot pay you and you're stuck with that bill, you've already paid payroll. I know a lot of people have already actually been reaching out to me about this, where let's say they apply for the PPP loan or the EIDL loan, they haven't received the money yet, but they've promised their employees and have been working them as if they're getting that money. And now they're concerned just in case they're not going to get that money. Again, I don't want you to be extending yourself as a business if you don't have that money coming in. You are not a bank. You are there to pay your employees and get paid. And so you need to stand strong right now and make sure that you update those payment terms with those businesses, and make sure that you have contracts to make sure that you have backup on everything that you're doing. And if you have the ability to file liens, this is the time to do it. And I work specifically with a couple businesses here in Montana that can file liens for you for a very, very nominal price. I recommend, if you've never filed liens before, that you reach out to a professional in your state, and maybe there's someone in the BBB network that you can reach out to that can help you file those liens, because that's going to protect you in case anybody files for bankruptcy. And I hate to say the B word, but it's important that we think about this as business owners. This is where the business owners and the hobbyists become much different. This is where people who are serious about running their business get serious about their payment terms, making sure that they're going to have the cash flow to be able to pay their employees, and making sure that they can maintain their business through this challenging time. I also like to mention too that this is a great time to offer discounts and incentives too for people. I know for us, we weren't necessarily planning on buying a new set of tires for our truck. It's $1,000. And, we heard from our local tire store, and they said they were giving a discount at a certain brand, and we ended up bringing it in there. We wanted to help stimulate the economy. I know other people are like me, where they really care about their communities, and they'll do whatever they can to support those companies and nonprofits that they care about. And so they will be buying things like gift certificates or products right now to make sure that, you're going to be there after this challenging time. So it's a great time to just think a little bit creatively about how you can make sure that the money continues to come in and that your organization and business is going to be protected for years to come. And I also like to remember that not every business is struggling. I was on a biz-to-biz group call this morning. It has 18 members on it, and all but 2 were doing better in this trying time. And so it was really interesting to get that perspective. Obviously, there were insurance agents in that group. There was a car dealership in that group. There was a mortgage company, a banker, you know, all these different organizations. But know that not everyone is struggling through this. And so take advantage of that opportunity. If people want to support your business, this is the time to ask. And if you don't ask, you don't know the results. So it's important to get out there in front of your clients and make sure that they know that you're looking for their support now. My fourth tip is revising your 2020 monthly budget. Here's why. Cash flow is king right now. Understanding the money that's coming out on a monthly basis is very important. And that's why I put those other steps ahead of this, because with the SWOT analysis, we want to make sure that you're taking advantage of those opportunities and your strengths, right? At the next step, I said, check in with your clients, making sure that you know how much money is going to be coming in for your organization, and just having those conversations with clients so that you can figure out your expected revenue in 2020. So what I'm recommending to a lot of clients right now, with or without these loans that are available to you, is try to figure out what your budget looks like in 2020. I know my budget that I put together last October for our organization looks entirely different. And so I had to do a revised budget right now. And I did that. And I had to have some real heart-to-heart conversations. We are a nonprofit. And so I had to reach out to those people that had pledged money to our organization for 2020 and ask them, are you still able to follow through on that pledge? Can I expect that money? So that we as an organization know that if we need to increase our line of credit, if we need to get additional loans, things like that. As a 501c3, and a 501c4, we weren't able to apply for all the different loan options. So we had to think creatively without those SBA loan options for our organization, because we do lending, we were disqualified from both of them. So, and so for us, we had to be creative about that. And so it's important to think about those monthly budgets, thinking about the money coming in, the money coming out. I actually have some tools for you here and a website link that lead back to our website that you can just download a cash flow document for yourself and kind of actually start working on your numbers a little bit. Start thinking about that monthly revenue. I know I've been working with caterers, and they, you know, most of them, a majority of their business is in the summer, but most of those weddings have canceled. And so they've just gotten cancellation fees instead of the full contracts amount. So for them, they've really been working hard. I've put together a small group of caterers, that kind of a group that we come together on Zoom, and we talk a little bit about how they can adjust their numbers and things like that. That's huge. If 75% of their income comes in 3 months, which is pretty common for Bozeman because we're a tourism-based industry or community, you know, it's time to revise those budgets to make sure that you're going to be able to get through these trying times. So I know it seems like a lot of work, but maybe you have the time right now, and this is the time to work on it if you want to get through this. And on this next slide, I'm going to show you just a quick example of what a cash flow document looks like. This isn't the clearest document, I apologize, and it's a smaller font, but I'm happy to share this document, and again, it's available at our website. But this is important, that we know how much money we need and where you can reduce and gain. And if you put all that information on paper, sometimes it's easier to do that and actually see what's going on with your money coming in and money coming out. So this is the time to check in on all these things. This is the time to kind of, you know, work on where you can be creative with your money coming in and coming out. The last tip that I have for you today is connecting with your advisors. You know, when I teach a lot of people about how to start a business or how to start a nonprofit, and there are a couple of things that I'm pretty consistent about. And one is that, you know, make sure that you've got a tribe that's helping you kind of get through these trying times. And sometimes that can be like a Better Business Bureau, just people that you can count on for advice and information to help your business succeed. But there are also advisors like bankers, accountants, bookkeepers, local economic development groups, financial advisors. And so I like to start with the banking option. So obviously, once you've done that cash flow document, you've understood what your numbers are going to look like. You're going to see if you're going to need a loan or not, or need another alternative in terms of financing for yourself. And so again, it's important that you reach out to a local banker about your other loan options. The SBA does have bridge loan options available where they, those are up to $25,000, and those are available still. I know no one's really talking about those, but they are still available. And that's through the SBA, which is through a local lender. And then like for us, you know, we increased our line of credit right now because we've got so much uncertainty, and we were still checking in with all of our clients. We increased our line of credit with the bank. It's something that you work alongside with the bank, but this gives you the opportunity to get something like 5% interest rates instead of 18 or 20 with a credit card. And it's just a really sustainable way to grow your business, you know, through ups and downs. I mean, we have this line of credit all the time, and I recommend that a lot of other businesses do the same. It's a great way to protect yourself. And then again, you know, look to see what other loan programs are out there. I have a call into about 15 different local bankers to figure out what they're telling their clients right now so that we can be most up to date as an economic development group in advising our clients. And so I'm recommending the same thing. Reach out to that banker. You know, the PPPs have closed. They are still processing those loans that have already come through the system, but it's still a great time to check in with those bankers. The other thing is that it's a great time to honestly work on your taxes and your quarterly reports. If you were applying for those EIDL loans or those PPP loans, you know you needed to have those things anyway. And so just in case that money does become available, you need to have those done. And so it's important. It's not that you will be disqualified without them, but it is very key information for those loan programs. So it's a great time to get those books updated and get them done so that you have an understanding of what the rest of 2020 looks like for you. Again, local economic development groups, they range. Every organization is different. Our particular organization does lots of things, but not all of them do all the same things. So typically they have counselors, loan funds, trainings, webinars. Like for instance, we have 800 online classes. I know some organizations are a little bit quieter right now, and so they're recommending that their staff get trained up or get certifications. And so, for instance, our online classes have been very popular. And so I recommend the same thing. If you've got some downtime with your staff, this is a great time to get them certified so that they're ready to go when things kind of return back to normal. I also am recommending that personally, on a personal level, you reach out to your own financial advisor. I know a lot of you guys just received your quarterly statements in the mail, and I know that was probably hard to see some of those numbers coming through the mail. And so I'm recommending that because we pay our financial advisors all year long, this is a great time to check in with them and just see what opportunities you have through the CARES Act to be able to contribute and be able to make sure that you leverage this opportunity right now with maybe stimulus checks and things like that. So making sure that you check in with them. And now with all these different advisors, you know, reach out to the BBB, reach out to your local economic development group, and ask them if you don't have one of these people, it's a good time to get them because there's going to be a lot of changes in the economy in the next few years. And so it's important to have a tribe to help you through this. And so reach out to those people, ask them for advice on who they would recommend they talk to. And if you're in Montana, I'm happy to be that resource for you as well. Now, that was just some quick 5 tips that we covered here today. And again, this is my email address and contact information if you've got any questions. But at this time, I will turn it back over to Dale.
All right, Suzi, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. I'm going to take this quick moment to remind folks that since you are a BBB accredited business, we have developed a We Are Open icon to put next to your business listing during these troubling times. So make sure and let us know if you're one of those businesses that is remains open and seeking customers. We can definitely add that to your business. So Suzi, there are a few questions that have come in, and I'd like to make sure we set the stage appropriately, as this is a recorded webinar that's going to be played back. We're going to post this to YouTube and our Facebook pages. So there's a good chance that there's going to be a lot of change between now as we record this and when people watch. But understanding that last night funding ran out for the PPP and EIDL programs, and that they're on hold right now. And Congress is, the Senate, US Senate is in session right now trying to figure out how to find more funds for those programs. The first question comes, what documents do businesses need to have ready to act very quickly if more funding opens up? So,
yep. This is a really good question. I'm going to grab my exact list that's on that webinar that I referenced here. So the things that you're going to need for that are obviously your monthly payroll statements. And so they're looking for all of 2019 and first quarter 2020. You're also going to need any costs that include vacation, parental, family, medical, or sick leave. You'll also need a copy of things that show your state and local taxes, not your federal taxes, but your state and local taxes assessed on employee compensation. And then you'll need copies of any health insurance premiums if you do pay that as a employer, or retirement plan funding that you do. Those are kind of the key documents that you need. You'll also need things like a government issued ID in color to be able to show that you are a US citizen as well, and able and have your contact information on there. You're also gonna need, if you're self-employed, obviously some 1099 information and your Schedule C information. The K1, if you have income on your K1 statement, then that income does not count. And so just making sure that people understand that, because people are paid in all different kinds of ways. And so it's just important that you understand that as well. So if you're a 1099 or Schedule C or W-2, those are all important things that you're going to need for filing.
Okay. The next question comes from Andy. What do I need to show proof that I am using the money from my PPP loan?
So that information is still forthcoming from the banking industry, or from the SBA basically, to be clear, for the banking industry. But what they are saying is that at the end of your term loan, you are to write a letter asking for forgiveness for your loan, and then you need to show proof of documentation that you spent that money on those items that are listed under the PPP. And those things can only be used for payroll expenses, including those items I just listed off, which are vacation, sick, family leave, retirement, and taxes. Those payroll that payroll information, mortgage interest, rent, and utilities, and then any interest on debt occurred before February 15th.
Okay. Raj just wrote a question. Our loan has been approved, but we have not received funds yet. Shall we receive our funds from the last budget, or are we out of luck?
If you have applied already, you are in a first come, first serve queue. And so I would be patient. Like I said, with the PPP loan, lenders are still getting in contact with their clients that have applied and have actually turned in an application. You should be patient. That should potentially take up to 10 days for you to be able to get that money in your account. With the EIDL, I'm still waiting on a lot of Montana businesses to get that money. So that process has been a lot longer. If you applied for the EIDL loan the very first week that it was available, it was a very, very long and onerous application. It may have taken you up to 20 hours to fill it out. And I'm not joking. I was helping a lot of people that weekend that it launched. Unfortunately, that application basically took down the entire SBA loan program. And so they actually put together a whole new application, and which showed a box where you can click that I want that advance. And so if you applied within that first week of the EIDL loan, they're asking you to reapply under the new system. And so I'm not going to be confusing to anyone here, hopefully. If you filled out the EIDL loan and it took you, and it was just an online system, you didn't have to upload anything for it, that is the right system. If you did it prior to that and it was a system where you had to upload all these documents, then you needed to reapply on the new EIDL system. So hopefully I didn't confuse anyone on that. It was a very confusing process, and it was rolled out, and it was very cumbersome at the beginning, but then ended up being very smooth in the end.
Melinda asks a question. We have an application number for the PPP loan. What is next?
What is next is that I recommend that people get access to some sort of credit app that shows when people are pulling on their credit. What I'm told is that the next signs for the EIDL loan and the PPP are really that you start to see a pull on your credit. And so the only way you'll really know that is if you use a credit app. And so, for instance, we use Credit Karma. I personally use Credit Karma, and so I can tell if there's a pull on my credit. So that would be something I would recommend doing. I'm not, saying Credit Karma is the right way to go. I'm just saying that there are other apps available, and you can use them to kind of see and get notified when you get a pull on your credit. So typically there's a hard pull on your credit, or you may get an email from the SBA. That's the other thing I've seen on a couple of clients where they've actually sent me an email copy of what they've received. But on the PPP, in general, you'll get something from that institution within 7 to 10 days.
Okay. Kevin is asking, and he's going to use the name of his business. MCMA is an LLC made up of 2 individuals, and another LLC. If the LLC making up part of MCMA has submitted for the EIDL PPP, will this affect MCMA's opportunity to receive a loan?
With both programs, you can only get one loan, and so it depends on how many EIN numbers that you have. If you have more than one EIN number, theoretically, you should be able to apply for both entities.
Okay. So it's one per EIN number is the bottom line answer for that.
Yep.
Okay.
And you can't double dip. So, I mean, if they see that, then you're going to obviously get flagged. If it's basically the same two employees on both of them and it's the same amount, it could get tricky. So I would just tread lightly there, but theoretically you can apply if there's a separate EIN number, but I would not, that's fraud.
No double dipping.
No double dipping.
Good advice. So Sandy asks, can we apply for an SBA loan and the PPP?
So a general SBA loan, like a 7A loan or something like that, yes, you can. You certainly can. So those options are available still through lenders. I actually have a call into a local lender because I'm in the middle of working on a loan with a client in town. And, I'm going to be honest, I don't know how quick those loans are going to be turned around because the bankers are so, they're just bogged down with all these PPP applications. And eventually in the next week, hopefully they will have gotten through all those applications. But I would say the process might be a little bit slower than it normally is, but those other opportunities are available. And if for some reason, if you don't, to get a regular SBA loan, that's where things really change. If you're accustomed to the loan terms of a PPP or an EIDL loan, which are very generous, there were no personal guarantees, there were little to no collateral. That is very different than a standard loan. And so it's important that you work with your lender on that, understanding what those terms would look like. Typically business loans are 5 to 7 years. The interest rate can range depending on your credit from 4 to 8 or 9. And typically there's collateral involved too. So just making sure that you understand the difference between the typical SBA loan and these special programs that came about. That's what made them so unique, is that it was just more based on credit more than anything and not about collateral or guarantees.
Okay. Andy writes, we applied for the EIDL. How can I tell if we need to do it again?
If you applied for the EIDL and it was a very easy process, you just had to fill in some basic information with your expenses, cost of goods sold, number of employees, and then there was a check mark on the advance, then you are fine. You're good to go. You're in the queue. If you applied for a more onerous application and it took you hours to do and there were uploads, then that was when they were asking you to reapply if you wanted access to that advance of up to $10,000. So I don't know which application you applied under, but if it was hard, they ask you to reapply and ask for that advance on the new updated system. But if you applied in the last 2 weeks, you would have used the new system.
Okay. Any additional advice you have for people as far as just being ready to pull the trigger the moment we get word from Congress that there's additional money, or obviously focusing on what we do have control over in this time is ultimately the best advice, but just anything more on the preparation front?
Yeah, I think I mentioned those documents that you should have ready. I'm seeing a lot of people struggling because they didn't have their books updated, and then they tried to apply for these loans and they just got waylaid basically because they didn't have their books done. And so if there's ever a friendly reminder now, it's do your books and keep them updated, because you just don't know, right? And then without those updated books, you're not going to know what you need in 2020. It's time to be a smart business owner and really understand what your financials look like. And so, that's my advice to you, is really get a grip on what's going to be happening for you in the next 8 months. And even if things, let's say this ban or your stay-at-home bans lifted tomorrow, we're all still going to be affected by this. And so it's important to understand what your financials look like.
Okay. Karen asks, are these loans only for businesses that have payroll?
So for the EIDL loan, no. For both of these loans, actually, you can be self-employed. You can be a sole proprietor for both of them. So it's kind of a tricky question, depending on how you pay yourself. But that's not necessarily the case. You don't have to have. You don't necessarily have to have payroll. You can have 1099 or Schedule C income too to apply for these things.
Okay. Francine asks, can you make edits to your loan application?
I've gotten this question a lot. It's really difficult to make edits at this point. Just because you're kind of in the queue, and where those edits can really take place is when you get the opportunity to finally talk to your loan officer. I would save your edits for there. I've gotten this question a lot, and people keep thinking because we're a part of the SBA, we've got access to these applications. We do not. And even my district offices at the state level do not have access to those things either. So I would say save your edits and make sure that you've got a clear, concise list of things that you'd like to discuss when you do get the option to talk with a lender.
Okay. Cricket writes, I'm self-employed, sole proprietor, no employees. My business is online and home-based. I own the home and property. I can be open, but orders are very slow. So Cricket says she submitted a PPP on 4/7 and an Oregon State unemployment claim on April 11th. Not heard about either. Can I have both, or which would be a better option?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I can't give you advice on which one is better for you, just because I know nothing about your tax status or about the income that you have coming in. Just for liability purposes, I hope you understand that. But you are able to apply for both of them. I mean, legally, you are able to apply for both of them. I mean, that's when you look at the interim rules, you are able to apply for both of them. I'm not surprised that you haven't heard from either one of them, though. Although you said April 7th for the PPP, that's surprising me a little bit. I'm typically, because let's see here, what is the date today? Maybe April 16th. Yeah, I would give it another day or two on both of those and be patient, especially if it's a bigger bank that you worked with. I know that it's been hard. It's been hard to get all those applications through. Some of the national banks, they just have huge numbers. And so it's been harder to get those things through. And then in terms of unemployment, I'm not super certain about the Oregon system. I know what's happening here in Montana. And I know that if you're self-employed, our unemployment website for self-employed individuals has been very confusing for people because you apply on the same portal as if you're an employer and you have W-2 employees. And so it's been very confusing for people, at least at the Montana level, to apply for unemployment. And I don't know what the case is in Oregon, but be patient. I know that all these people are trying to do the best that they can. I mean, we're all trying to do our part here, so give them the benefit of the doubt. I know it's hard to be patient now, but know that, like I said, if you hear about the terminology about the SBA and it's taken, we've done 14 years of loans in 14 days. Imagine what the unemployment office has done. I mean, those guys, most of America is filing for unemployment. Because that's really available for everyone beyond business owners. And so please be patient. These people are doing the best they can.
Awesome. James asks whether we addressed real estate investors who live off of passive income. It's not self-employment income. Are they eligible for any of the relief?
Well, in the EIDL loan, if you look at my webinar, you're going to see where I actually point this particular item out. I'm going to pull the exact terminology here for 1 second here. I'm going to look at my presentation from yesterday. Give me one moment, please. Okay, on the EIDL loan specifically, it says rental properties, residential and commercial only, lost rents due to the disaster. I know that a lot of people who have Airbnb properties, vacation rentals, and then they have, obviously properties where they just rent out for month or on an annual basis. I know that that's where people have been filling out that information right there. In terms of the PPP, it'd be difficult. Obviously, you have no employees. I'm going to be really honest about the payroll protection program. It's really great if you have payroll. it's not a great system if you don't have payroll, because that's what the whole program was designed for. The EIDL loan is a better option for you anyway. So I would apply, if the ability becomes available for you, apply for the EIDL loan. And there's a specific spot where you can put in the loss of rent that you've experienced since the beginning of the disaster. So
Tamara asks, my application is still considered in process for the EIDL loan. Is it likely that it will not be approved at this point?
That's a tricky one. I can't say yes or no, because depending on if you need or if you got an application number yet, what they're saying is that if you have applied, you are in the queue. I don't know what in process means for you on your end of it. If they've given you an application number, you're in the queue, but I don't know if you haven't received an application number, what they're going to do about that. I'm guessing you probably applied really recently, and that's why it's in process. So again, this money ran out yesterday for the EIDL loan. So if you applied yesterday, there's a chance that you're kind of on the fence there. Again, be patient to find out. Like I said, the best you can do right now is work on your cash flow and think about your plan B right now.
And that a great follow-up from Janelle. We applied for EIDL on April 3rd, so more specifics. We received an application number to what you just said, but have not received any other correspondence. How long until we see a response?
Yep, 3 weeks.
Okay. You said 3 weeks, just.
Yep, 3 weeks. On the PPP, obviously, we're hearing about those much sooner. With the EIDL loan, I'm not surprised if you haven't heard yet. I mean, no one really has, so do not be surprised. If you've applied for the EIDL loan, folks, give yourself, April 3rd, I think it's the 16th today. Sorry, I feel like I'm in like a time right now. So sorry. I feel like I work 24/7, so I'm not sure what day it is anymore, and I'm in my basement. I would give yourself at least till like April 20th, folks, April 25th. Give yourself some time before you hear from those folks.
Okay. Can you use 2018 tax information? The question from Tamala.
Yep, you can. Yep, you can.
Okay. And then,
but you're going to still need to have 2019. If you're applying for any of these loans, you still need to have 2019 information ready. You just don't have to have your taxes done, but you're still going to need those payroll reports.
Okay.
Financials.
Let's see, I've got questions. I'm going to ask our folks if you could use the Q&A section of the Zoom webinar. That would be fantastic, because I'm looking at questions coming in from all over the place. So Tamala writes, if your business showed a loss, can you still qualify for PPP?
If you have payroll, again, everything about the payroll protection program is about payroll. That's the only thing I can be clear about, is that if you have payroll, you should be fine, because that means even if you were operated at a loss, you still paid people. So everything with payroll protection program is about payroll.
And on the PPP loan, do you need a business account connected to that? So.
Yep. So what they're saying, at least locally here in Montana, they're saying, obviously, if you want to apply for the PPP loan, you work with your local lender, someone that's already affiliated with the SBA. So in Montana, at least a lot of credit unions aren't affiliated with the SBA in terms of they haven't been doing SBA loans in the past, and they've chosen as an organization not to move forward with these PPP loans. And so I've had a lot of clients that have said, well, hey, I only bank with credit unions. What do I do next? And so what they're doing is that they're applying with a new bank, but with the understanding that they need to count at that new bank because the money needs to go someplace, and it needs to go within their institution. So just keeping that in mind, knowing that it's always important to have a great relationship with a lender. I know that I have talked to some people that are like, well, I'm self-funding everything. I don't really need these relationships. But let me tell you, when push comes to shove, bankers will work really hard for you, and they're great advisors. And so it's important that you have them in your circle before things like this happen, or before you need them, even after this crisis. Even, let's say you've got a big trade show coming up and you want to spend a bunch of money. It's a great opportunity to get a line of credit, things like that. I just think a banker can be such a valuable asset in your portfolio of advisors. So yes, you can apply with other institutions, but know that you most likely are going to have to open up an account with that institution.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. So this is an interesting question. Is the PPP available for independent contractors to pay subcontractors?
So you apply for, okay. So that subcontractor theoretically should be able to apply for themselves because they're an independent contractor. So, that's the key here is that under the payroll protection program, it was formulated to help people pay payroll and keep people out of the unemployment system for an 8-week period. That is what that's what that program was designed for. And so as an independent contractor, you have the ability to apply for yourself. And so that independent contractor should not be applying on behalf of that other person. That person should be applying on behalf of themselves.
Perfect. Another question. What if EIDL and PPP are applied at the same time? Can either be canceled if not needed?
So until you sign the loan documents, you've only applied. You haven't actually signed on the dotted line yet. So, you'll have the opportunity to have, discuss terms essentially and talk that over. So, depending on, at least for the EIDL, you have the ability to say no with that loan. With the PPP, I'm not sure what they're actually asking on the back end from the institution. So I know what the SBA loan paperwork looks like what the application actually looks like. In terms of what you are signing on the dotted line with that particular banking institution at the end of that application, I do not know. And so I would just look back at the contract or the application that you signed to see what it says on the dotted line there for you.
Okay. Do you have information about the Main Street lending program? That's a bit of a broad general question, but you did say earlier that's still available and it'd be best to work with your SBA lender on that.
So there is a Main Street program available. I actually have not mentioned that on this particular webinar today. What I did talk about was the SBA bridge loans, which are available through the SBA, and that can be found at sba.gov, information on those bridge loans. And I would look at that website before you go to a banking institution, just because they are so backed up right now and so focused on getting those PPPs through. But that is an option for you. I did read an announcement 2 days ago from a Main Street revitalization program. What I would recommend that you do is you reach out to your own, if you're a part of like a Main Street enterprise, I would probably reach out to your own kind of business association that's located in your downtown area. Like for instance, we have a downtown business association and they're pretty keyed into those particular programs. Also, if you're a Main Street business, at least in Montana, we have some special grants for people that are on Main Street businesses as well. So I would look again to those economic development groups that you work with. I know that me personally, I try to have an understanding of all the programs that are available at my state level. And so again, but these programs are like rolling out by the minute. And so we're doing the best we can to keep up on those things. And if you're a part of an association, I recommend that you reach out to those associations to see if there's any help at the national or federal level and state level. And then I also recommend just reaching out to your peers in your same industries and figuring out what they're doing and just kind of learning some best practices that way as well.
Fantastic. And then James, I believe James asked the question from a real estate investor standpoint, the availability, and he wrote a follow-up. And I'll just read exactly what he wrote. They came out and said EIDL was only going to pay $1,000 per employee, so you don't know how they will handle real estate investors. Any info?
So the EIDL advance, which is a portion that may be forgiven on the EIDL loan, was about an advance for up to $10,000 per employee. There is another part of that EIDL loan that's not in an advance, and that is an actual loan that you get through the U.S. government, and that is a 2.75% interest rate, or 3.75% if you're a business, 2.75% if you're a nonprofit. Those are 30-year terms, and so our loan options. There's a loan portion of that EIDL program. What I always like to remind people of is that the PPP and the EIDL are loans. These are loans that you're originally signing up for. Whether or not portions of them are forgiven are up to you and making sure that you are spending the money correctly. And so in your case with real estate, again, if the EIDL money becomes available, you'll still be able to apply. You would just put 0 as employee, so that means that you wouldn't get in advance, but that still makes you an applicant for the actual EIDL loan, which is a really, really low interest loan with unprecedented terms at 30-year terms. You don't see business lending at that level. So still a really great option for all businesses.
Okay. Karen wrote that 2 of her clients have received their EIDL loans.
Right.
Andy is reiterating that he applied. I'm not sure what loan that Andy applied for, but he just said he applied on April 5th, got a number, said we won't hear anything for another few weeks. So what you're saying is the PPP loan, you're going to get a response more quickly, within days. The EIDL loan, it's about 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's about the time period I'm seeing, is about 3 weeks.
Okay. With that, I believe that we have come to the end of our time. Suzi Berget-White, thank you so much for your time. It has been incredibly valuable today for us, even though we had to pivot at the last moment from our anticipated conversation as we wait to get more information out of Washington, D.C. on what's going to happen. So, Suzi, thank you so much for spending this time with us today. A huge help for accredited businesses through Better Business Bureau. We really appreciate you, your flexibility through this process, and we'll be making sure that your information is available to everybody as it's right there on the screen. I'm going to remind our viewers that BBB keeps an updated list of information available on our website. It's really easy to find, bbb.org, and we have a page dedicated to the latest information on COVID and the coronavirus response, especially for small business, a number of resources. We are producing and conducting 2 webinars per week on topics like this, a variety of topics related to how you can work through this trying time and build trust. Information specific to you and your business. Those are all on our Facebook pages, YouTube page, easy to find. So go out and look at those resources if you have not seen them yet. We will continue to hold these webinars twice a week. Make sure and register, and you can participate live and ask questions just as we have spent the last 25 minutes with Suzi. So with that, thank you so much for being a part of Better Business Bureau. Thank you for building trust in these trying times. Have a very good rest of the week.